This is it. It's finally back. It took a lot of time and even more work, but we finally have the MSG on 1.2.1, baby. For this video, I'm going to be going over the method for versions 1.2.0 and 1.2.1. Unfortunately, this setup is not going to work on version 1.1.2. Now, before you jump straight into the comments, we do have a method that does work for that version. However, the process for doing it is quite literally the actual hardest thing to do in this game. And at this moment, Lytos, the GOAT, is the only human being I can actually confirm that has successfully performed the method for 1.1.2. It is literally that hard. So for that reason alone, I'm gonna be waiting until we've optimized that method more before I even attempt to cover it in a video, because you guys just aren't gonna be able to do it. But with all of that, let's not waste any more time and jump straight into it. Now, before we can get into the fun, we are gonna have to do a little bit of learning. First off, there are a few things that I really want to clarify about this and a couple of concerns that I just want to address. After that, I want to go over the things that you're going to need to perform this, as well as actually showing you all of the individual glitches that we're going to be using for this process. First and foremost, this is not like the AMS. This process does not rely on any specific quests or progression, meaning that you can perform this on any save file, provided you have access to the requirements, which there aren't a lot. The only exception is if you've already performed AMS on your save. If you have made your real Master Sword unbreakable, then unfortunately, this method will not work for you. But we do have a separate method that you can use to do this. I'm just going to need a little more time to go and learn that method before I can make a video to go over it. So just keep an eye out for that. It is coming. The other thing I want to address is any concerns over the possibilities of losing your save file. During this process, we'll be starting a new game and we'll be making a hard save while inside the prologue. I understand the apprehension and the unease around doing this, but I assure you that there is zero risk of losing your save so long as you do what I say. I'm not going to go into a ton of detail, but the part of the prologue where we're going to be spending most of our time does not actually trigger autosaves, so there isn't anything to worry about in that regard. With that out of the way, let's talk about what you're actually going to need to do this. Realistically, like I said, the list is not long. The only things you're going to need for this are Mineru, access to all 3 travel medallions, a handful of steering sticks and cooking pots, and some shields and melee weapons. The more steering sticks and cooking pots you have, the better, and the more shields and melee weapons you have just means the more attempts that you get at performing certain glitches before you need to reload a save. The last thing I want to go over are some of the terms I'll be using. Namely, I want to clarify how I'll be referring to each item during fuse entanglement. The item that is being entangled will be referred to as the child. The item that the child is being entangled to will be referred to as the base. So for example, if I entangle a Traveler's Shield to a Hylian Shield, the Traveler's Shield is the child and the Hylian Shield is the base. With that covered, now that we're all on the same page, let's go over the glitches that we're going to be using to actually get this thing. Throughout this process, we're going to be making use of fuse storage, FSFE, SDC, YFE, Mineru FE, cold fuse using Mineru FE, cold fuse SDC, portable culling, no D-padlock Invis Zuggle, Mineru Zuggle, and Null FE. I covered the first 4 glitches in this video, and I've covered the rest of them in this video. If you don't already know these glitches, you'll need to watch those videos first before coming back to this one. So now, without any further ado, let's go get this damn sword. First thing we need to do is set up a glitch called Travel Medallion Storage. So go ahead and place 2 of your medallions down, literally anywhere on the map, it does not matter where, and then head over to Tarrytown. When you get there, head to where Ronson is and make a hard save. Now, warp to the Nacho-Ya Shrine and enter it to make an autosave inside the shrine. Once that's done, load the hard save that we just made in Tarrytown. When you load in, come up to this Hudson cutout right here, draw your bow, and pull up the ability menu. Now, release ZR to let go of the bow, open up the map rune, and go watch a memory. When that's finished, go back to the map and warp to one of your travel medallions. It doesn't matter which one you warp to, but the one that you choose is the one that we're going to be using from now on. So just keep that in mind. If you've done everything right, when you try to warp, it should get interrupted by Ronson's dialogue. Just skip through all of that until it closes, and then pull up your menu and load your Nacho-Ya Shrine autosave. When you load in, pull up the map and check to see if your travel medallion has moved to this location southeast of Lookout Landing. If you see the medallion there, then you're all set. However, if you want to be safe, then you can walk out of the shrine and walk back in just to confirm that your medallion will stay in place. If it doesn't end up in the field, then just load your Tarrytown hard save and try again. Like I said, from this point, anytime we warp to a travel medallion, this is the specific travel medallion that you need to warp to. If you warp to a different one, whatever you're trying to do won't work. So please keep that in mind. So with our travel medallion storage set up, the next step is to slot some items. To do that, we need to head over to the Gutenbach Shrine on GSI. When you get there, just run forward, drop down the ledge, and make a new hard save. I also very much recommend equipping some gear before you make that save to help you deal with the weather, because taking damage from the weather pulls you out of abilities, and it's going to make this very, very annoying for you. So I suggest doing that. Now, the first thing that you need to do here is entangle a shield or a melee weapon to Mineru. Once that's done, you need to use that entangled weapon to cold fuse a steering stick. After that, go ahead and cold fuse SDC that stick, then fuse it to a melee weapon to set up Portacull. So with that done, next we need to entangle another piece of equipment to Mineru and use that to cold fuse SDC another steering stick. When that's finished, go ahead and fuse that SDC stick to Mineru. Now we're going to use the EFE we just set up to entangle one shield to another shield. As soon as you're done doing that, make sure that you mount Mineru and fuse literally anything over the SDC stick that we fused to her earlier. This is just to prevent a soft lock. When that's done, go ahead and move those entangled shields off to the side. Then you need to perform one more Mineru FE and one last cold fuse SDC with it. After that, just make sure to mount Mineru one more time to unlock your ability wheel. Then you can go ahead and dismiss her and bring your entangled equipment along with your Portacull into the cave with the like. Don't worry about that extra SDC stick. We're just going to leave that right there for now. So now you want to take the child shield and feed it to the like. After that, you want to Invis Zuggle your base shield. When that's finished, you need to retrieve the child shield from the like. It doesn't matter how you do it. The easiest way will be just to kill it, but you need to get the child shield back. And once you do, make sure you have no other shield equipped and pick up the child shield. Next, you need to take that child shield outside and you need to fuse the SDC stick that we left out there to the shield. This will create a Portacull shield. Once all of that is done, go ahead and warp to the Nacho-Ya shrine and head inside. Don't worry about any of the gear that we're leaving on the ground, we're not actually going to lose it. Once inside, you want to drop your Portacull shield, then grab it with Ultra Hand and hold it up right about here. If you need a guideline, if you line up the bottom of the shield with the dragon's nose and then drag it to the middle of the entrance, it should line up just fine. Once you have it in place, just kind of hold it there for a moment and then drop it, hit it with recall, and then once the item is kind of sitting in that spot in recall, pull up your menu and load the save outside the Gutenbach shrine. What we just did is called a recall lock, and basically it's just going to leave that item there and allow it to persist through saves. So all you need to know is it's in place, it's not going to go anywhere, and we don't need to worry about it yet. Once you load back in to your Gutenbach save, we're going to need to perform basically the exact same series of glitches again. So go ahead and entangle a piece of equipment to Mineru. Then cold fuse a stick to it. SDC that stick. And fuse it to a melee weapon to create a Portacull. Now, same as last time, we need to do it all again to make another SDC stick so we can fuse it to Mineru to create WST FE. Just like before, use WST FE to entangle one shield to another shield. And then bring those and your Portacull weapon to the cave with the like. Once you're in the cave with all of your equipment, same as before, feed the child shield to the like and Invis Zuggle the base shield. After you're done zuggling, retrieve the child shield from the like and pick it up, making sure you don't already have another shield equipped. And now this time, we're going to warp to the Runikit Shrine right here. When you get there, head inside, and then you're going to run straight ahead, climb up the ladders, and then turn and glide over to this platform over here. Once you get over there, grab one of these other platforms off to the side, bring it over to this little depression in the ground, and we're going to lift it up and hold it up in the air for a moment. This is just going to be to help us get some extra height. After a moment, drop it down, stand on it, and drop your child shield. Now you need to recall the platform. Grab the child shield with Ultra Hand, and then hold it out right around here. The exact location isn't too important so long as it's at least this high up the wall. If it's too low, it's going to be under the ground, and we don't want that. Now, once you've held that there for a moment, just go ahead and recall lock that in place. Making sure that you load the save near the Gutenbach Shrine when you do so. Again, this is so we can get all of our equipment back. So with that done, once again, we need to set up one final recall lock. So go ahead and set up your Portacull weapon in YFE. This time, we're going to be entangling a melee weapon to our shield instead of another shield. And that's done. Like before, make sure that you fuse over the SDC stick that's on Mineru so you don't soft lock. Then take your Portacull and the entangled items into the cave. Again, like before, feed the child weapon to the like, Invis Zuggle the base shield, then retrieve the child weapon from the like. Again, make sure that you have no melee weapon equipped when you pick up that child weapon. Once you have it, we're going to go ahead and warp back to the Runikit Shrine just like last time, and you're going to go inside as soon as you load in. Same as before, when you get in, run forward, climb the ladder, glide over to the platform, and you're going to recall lock the weapon right next to the shield that we recall locked on the last time. Again, make sure that when you actually do the recall lock, that you are loading the save outside of the Gutenbach Shrine. But once you've got all three of these items recall locked in the shrines, you are finished with part 1 of the setup. Our next step is to prepare our prologue save, which will also serve as a checkpoint in case anything goes wrong during the execution. So the first thing that we need to do, provided that you loaded your Gutenbach save and got your equipment back, is trigger an autosave. It doesn't matter where you trigger it, it doesn't matter how you trigger it. My recommendation is just to warp to any shrine and go inside it because that will trigger the autosave. The only goal here is to make an autosave while we still have all of our equipment. Once you have triggered that autosave, then pull up the menu, quit to the title, and start up a new game. When you load in, just progress through the prologue until you get to the mural room where you have to kill the 3 keys. Again, like I said in the beginning, you do not have to worry about losing your main save so long as you go straight to that mural room and you kill those keys. Once those keys are dead, the prologue will no longer trigger any autosaves, effectively eliminating any possible risk of losing access to your main file. So just don't take forever to get to the keys and you have nothing to worry about. When you get to the mural room, obviously kill the keys and skip through the cutscene. Now, after that, you should see the melee weapon and the shield that we recall locked in the Runikit Shrine sitting somewhere in this room, most likely pretty close to the ground. Go ahead and pick both of these up and just mash through all of the instruction screens that pop up. We don't care about all that. But once you have both of those items picked up and in your inventory, make a hard save. This save is exclusively a safety save, just in the freak event that you accidentally hit the wrong button in the dialogue coming up. So once you've got that done, you want to just progress down the prologue, head down the stairs and toward Ganon, and you want to trigger the cutscene with Zelda at the bottom of the stairs. When she prompts you to continue in the dialogue, you need to press B to close out of it. After you've closed the dialogue, pull up the menu and make a hard save. Once you've made this hard save, the checkpoint is in place. So long as you maintain this hard save, this will serve as a safety point in the event that something in the execution later on gets messed up. This way you won't have to redo the entire first part of this setup. So whatever you do, make sure you do not make a hard save until you have the MSG in hand in the proper file. At this point, you can go ahead and load whatever autosave you made before we went into the prologue. It should be your most recent one. With our prologue save ready, it's time for the second half of the setup. Now, there's a fast way to do this, and there's an easy way to do this. I'm going to be showing you the easy way. So first, you need to warp to the Akala Citadel ruins to trigger an autosave. Once you've done that, you need to warp to the Nacho-Ya Shrine and enter it to trigger another autosave. After that's done, go into your menu and reload the autosave at the Citadel. This may seem like a pointless and convoluted process, but what we've done here is set the Nacho-Ya Shrine as our most recent autosave, which will be important for the execution, and we've made it so that way no more autosaves are going to trigger while we're setting things up at the Citadel. Basically, this is just going to give you as much time as humanly possible to get your items in place once we're done with this part of the setup. So our first step is to set up a Portacull weapon. You can do this with either Fuse Storage or Mineru FE. It's entirely up to you. But once that's done, you need to Mineru Zuggle a shield. Once you've finished that and the Zuggled shield is visible on Link, make sure to mount Mineru and fuse over that slot to break any connection between the item and Mineru, and then you can go ahead and dismiss her. I also recommend taking your Portacull weapon and just dropping it off to the side and holding on to that just in case you manage to accidentally drop your Zuggle. This way you won't have to make a new Portacull to re-Zuggle a new shield. So once that's all done, the last thing we need to do is set up 2 more fuse entanglements. For the first one, we're going to be Null FEing a cooking pot to our Zuggled shield. When that's done, move that cooking pot to the side, and then you need to FSFE a steering stick to a melee weapon. Once both of those are done, we're finished at the Citadel. Our next step is going to be building some sort of flying contraption. Doesn't matter how you make this, but we need to build some sort of flying machine to transport both the cooking pot and the steering stick that we just entangled to specific locations. Now, the cooking pot is incredibly heavy. It is actually the heaviest of the Zonai devices. So in my experience, you are probably going to need a minimum of 4 fans to be able to lift this off of the ground. Also, as a little side note, you can use the entangled steering stick as the steering stick to control your device. You don't have to pull out another one. You can just use that one. Now, once that's all set and you're ready to transport these objects, you need to bring the cooking pot to these coordinates on screen. If you need a visual representation of where you're going, it's going to be basically the exact same location that the travel medallion moved to in the first part of this setup. So you need to go there as fast as you can because at this point, we're in a race against the clock. Autosaves are going to start getting triggered, so we need to go and get that pot in place and finish the last little part of the steps before our Nacho-Ya autosave gets overwritten. Realistically, you don't have to worry about that happening. This is all just to say go straight to these coordinates and don't make any pit stops on the way. Once you reach the coordinates, you want to land on the ground, detach your cooking pot from your device, and then just leave it here in the field. You don't have to worry about it despawning or disappearing or anything like that. It'll just stay right here. So now you need to hop back on your flying device, and you need to bring the steering stick over to Lookout Landing. When you get there, go ahead and detach the steering stick, and then you need to SDC it. Very important to remember that this is not cold fused, so you need to perform standard SDC to make this work. Easiest way I know to do this is to fuse it to a hoverstone, turn it on, drag it up in the air, ascend through, and then drop the base, mash A to mount it as soon as the menu closes, and then mash B so you don't clip straight through the ground. All pretty basic stuff that I went over in the other video where I explained SDC. After you've done that, go ahead and throw something at the hoverstone to bring it back down. Then make sure you pick up the base item with nothing else equipped, mount another steering stick to unlock your ability wheel, then separate your SDC'd stick from the hoverstone, then warp to the Lookout Landing tower. When you load back in, go back to the stick, which should still be sitting there on the ground. Go ahead and attach a dragon part to it just to be safe. Then drop this down into the emergency shelter. Now you need to very quickly make your way back to the cooking pot that we left in the field. again, I recommend just using a hover bike or other flying machine to get over there quickly. Once you've made it back to the field and you're at your cooking pot, you are completely finished with the setup. All that's left for you to do is the execution. So our first step is to pick up the cooking pot and make sure you're standing at these exact coordinates. Once you're in place, go ahead and drop your equipped weapon. This is going to cause both Link and the cooking pot to be culled. Don't worry if you still see your shield, that's because it's zuggled, that's normal. From here, pull up the menu and load your Nacho-Ya Shrine autosave. This is where things are going to get a little confusing, so pay attention closely. When you load in, chances are you're likely going to be placed very high up out of bounds, and you should be slowly descending toward the ceiling. This is good. However, this isn't the only place that you can wind up after this load. So if your screen does not look like mine, just pause your game and I will go over how to handle those other situations in just a moment. If you are up above the ceiling like I am, then you basically just want to sit here and wait for Link to fall down. We are aiming to get him fairly close to these rafters, though we don't need him to be directly on top of them. Now, this is going to take a while, so be prepared to be sitting here waiting for a bit. Now, for those of you who did not load into the same spot that I did, chances are you're probably going to be stuck inside a wall somewhere. Go ahead and open up your menu and load your prologue hard save. When you do this, one of two things is going to happen. Either Link is going to be pressed against the ceiling and he won't be falling, or Link will end up somewhere in the air over Ganon and will be slowly falling. If you are falling, just sit there and wait until Link reaches roughly the top of the green spiral. Should you get to that point before I get to it in this explanation, just pause your game and wait for me to catch up. If you end up stuck at the ceiling and you're not falling down, pull up the menu and reload your Nacho-Ya autosave again. As soon as you load in, unless you appear up in the ceiling, then you want to open your map and warp to this travel medallion out in the field. Again, this is the one we set up with the storage at the beginning. When you warp to that medallion, you are more than likely going to show up just below an out-of-bounds water plane, and a few seconds after the load, you're going to end up voiding out. Don't worry about that. That's good. That's what we want. After you void out, pull up your menu, load the prologue hard save, and when you load in, you should be away from the ceiling and properly falling. From here, just wait until Link reaches roughly the top of the green spiral, and then pause your game and wait for me to catch up. Now, going back to those of you who have been falling from the ceiling of the shrine, once you get fairly close to the rafters, you'll want to pull up the menu, and now it's your turn to load the prologue hard save. If you load and Link is in the air, floating down slowly, then just sit there and wait until he reaches roughly the top of the green spiral. If you load in and Link is stuck in the ceiling, then you want to reload your Nacho-Ya autosave, warp to the travel medallion out in the field, and wait for the void out. After the void out, open the menu and load the prologue hard save. You should be away from the ceiling and slowly falling now. I know that was a lot of back and forth and probably more than a little confusing, but if you followed my exact instructions, all of you, regardless of how you navigated this last part, should be in your prologue hard save and either falling down, waiting to reach the top of the spiral, or you have already reached the top of the spiral and you're paused waiting for me. So once you are at the top of the green spiral, you need to pull up your menu, load your Nacho-Ya Shrine autosave, and then warp to your travel medallion. Once again, this is the same medallion that we performed the storage on in the beginning. This time, when you load in, you should be below that void out point and slowly free falling out of bounds. Rotate your camera and make sure that you can see your travel medallion, and if you can, then just sit there in place and wait until your last coordinate reads -0135. Once you reach that point, pull up your menu and load your PROLOGUE hard save. When you load into the PROLOGUE, you should now be standing at ground level on the Ganon platform. And you should also notice that Link is going to be locked in place and more or less can't move anywhere. At this point, you need to equip your shield if it isn't already equipped, and then drop it. When you drop it, I recommend immediately turning around and mashing A to pick up these shields. The reason for this is because we need to pick both of these back up in order to free Link, and it is very, very possible for the non-Zuggled shield to bounce too far out of your range for you to be able to pick it up. This is a problem because unless both the shield you have with you and the shield that are Zuggled are the same type of shield, you will not be able to pick up the Zuggled shield until you pick up the other one. So if that shield bounces out of range, you are stuck and you will have to reset your shield Zuggle and go back through the entirety of the Part 2 setup. So again, very highly recommend turning around and mashing A to pick those up before they have a chance to bounce away. You do not want to end up like me in this clip, hoping that you can find the magic angle that will let you pick that shield up. I got very lucky. However, once you have picked up both of those shields, Link will be able to freely move around on this platform, and you are ready for the final part of the execution. Time to actually get this sword. So first things first, you need to position yourself just like this by the Portacull shield. This is just a safety measure. Now, make sure that you have no shield equipped and that your MSG is your equipped weapon. Then go ahead and pick up your Portacull shield. The last thing that we need to do is perform SLD to get the sword out of the PROLOGUE. So open up your menu and do exactly as I say. Drop the MSG, equip your other melee weapon, swap to the shield tab, and drop the equipped Portacull shield. Equip a different shield. Now very quickly press plus 2 times. This is going to close the menu and immediately reopen it. This is what's called a pause buffer. Now very, very important. If you see the sword appear where Link was standing, that means that your pause buffer was too slow. The process will not work if you go too slow. So if you see this, then you need to close out of the menu, re-equip your MSG, unequip your shield, pick up the Portacull shield again, and try this over. If your MSG ends up getting flung off of the Ganon platform, do not worry. I will show you how you can safely get that back in just a moment. Now, if you perform the pause buffer and you don't see the MSG where Link was standing, go ahead and swap to the melee weapon tab, drop the currently equipped melee weapon, then load your Nacho-Ya autosave. When you load in, provided everything was done properly, you should see the MSG drop to the ground next to the entrance. Now just pick it up, save the game, and that's it. You're done. Big Masso in hand, claps for everybody, juice boxes on me, you got it. As a final step, once you have made a new hard save with your MSG in hand, go ahead and close your game and open it back up. This is just so that way you can clear out the invis zuggles that were in place from the recall locked objects we used in the process. Now, going back to those of you who have lost your MSG, if your weapon gets flung off of the Ganon platform, Don't panic, you can very easily get it back and you don't have to worry about a reset. Either head over to a wall and safely descend by dropping and re-grabbing the wall until you reach the bottom, or just jump off the Ganon platform and crash into the ground. Be aware, you will only have enough health to jump down once, but you can survive the first one, no problem. When you get down there, it's going to be hard to see, but the ground is essentially a pit that goes deeper toward the center. So just follow the terrain downward until you find your sword, then pick it up and make your way back to the wall where Zelda's little cliffside is. Now just climb up that wall and make your way back to the platform. You don't have to worry about running out of stamina. You have more than enough to do it in those 3 wheels. You also don't have to worry about triggering Zelda's cutscene. You are far enough out of position to avoid hitting that. Also, if you don't want to slowly climb up the whole way, there is a little lip right here where you can kind of wall stall to get your stamina back. And if you do that, then you will have enough stamina to basically jump climb your way all the way back up and do it a lot faster. But once you get back up, just make sure that you do not have another shield equipped before you pick up the Portacull shield, and then just try it again. But that's all there is to it. I know I say that like this wasn't a long, complicated video, but in my opinion, this isn't super hard, and a lengthy setup is a very small price to pay for a permanently unbreakable sword with no strings attached. But there you go. Now you can finally enjoy the MSG on current version. As a final note, I'm going to show you how you can easily change the fuse material on the MSG, as well as how you can upgrade it with WST. For fusing, warp to the Akala Citadel and head to the culling area. You can also do this in Terrytown, but I like the Citadel better. When you get there, all you need to do is perform fuse storage on your intended fuse material using any melee weapon. When that's done, simply drop the equipped weapon, swap to the MSG, then walk toward the culling area to trigger the fuse. And that's how you fuse to the MSG in 1.2.1. Super simple, very easy. For WST, the first thing you need to do is make a Portacull shield. Once that's done, find a flat surface and stick 2 hover stones on top of each other. Now stand with links back to the stones and drop both your shield and melee weapon. This is just to test if your position is good. If the shield drops but the weapon doesn't, you're good. Pick your shield back up and get back into place. Now before we start, make sure you have the donor weapon equipped. This is the one we're copying the stats from. Once you're all set, we'll be doing almost the same inputs as in Zuggle. So pull up the ability wheel, select the map, mash left on the D-pad as soon as you release L to interrupt the map with the shield menu, drop the Portacull shield, and immediately mash left on the D-pad again to bring the shield menu back up. Swap to another shield, and immediately mash right on the D-pad to bring up the melee weapon menu. Swap to the MSG you want to copy the stats to, and let the D-pad menu close. This will open up the map. Now press plus to get to the inventory, then drop the equipped MSG. Now close the menu and you should see only your Portacull shield drop. Now just swap to a different weapon, then swap back, and your sword will be upgraded. And with that, you now have everything you need to get and upgrade your MSG on current version. This video wouldn't have been possible without the help from numerous members of the glitch hunting community. So I'd like to take a moment to give a massive thank you to Lightos, Armindo Emia, Black Mars, Auk, Winterboy77, Nightmare, Victor, Tahatano Game, and the many others of whom I know I am definitely blanking on the names right now. I'd also like to give a huge thank you to this month's channel members, David Richard, Losif Kun, Timber, War Dog, Jason Thompson, Celestial Kitsune, Nick Kaczynski, Jilly Vanilli, Sideways255, Dencho Kark, and Quino. Without you guys, it would be a lot harder to make these videos, so thank you. If you're interested in joining, channel memberships start as low as 99 cents a month and include all of the benefits for every tier. I also recorded the entirety of this video live over at twitch.tv/Suishi, so feel free to pop in and say hi. But that's going to do it for me. Socials are all down in the description if you want to drop a follow or join the Discord. I'm sure you know the drill by now, but with that, I'll see you in the next one.
you.